What's up everyone, and welcome on back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. If you're one of my returning subscribers, welcome back. And if this happens to be your first time stopping by, hello. My name is Monet. I am 28 years old, and here on this channel, I am sharing my financial journey. I document how I utilize the cash envelope system, and I've shown how I've gotten myself out of debt using the debt snowball method. So if you're interested in that and you enjoy the content, then definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Join the family. I would love to have you, and make sure you hit the bell so that you're always notified whenever I upload my next video. So within today's video, we are going to be doing our monthly reset, and what that means is that we are going to close out our budget from the previous month, which is going to be February, and we are going to set up our budget for the new month, which is going to be March. So if you're interested in that process and would like to see how I budget my income, then of course just keep on watching. All right, so getting started, here we are back at my template for the month of February. If you aren't aware, this template that I am sharing is one that I created myself. So if you're interested in using this template and you find that this might be helpful for yourself, I do have it available on my website. I will leave all the information for that down in the description below. And once again, as always, thank you for those who have purchased it and are enjoying it. So as I said, we are first going to start off with February and fill out all of our actual dollars to see how I came in for the month compared to how I budgeted. Just for transparency, technically February isn't over. I am filming this the week of February 23rd, and that's because I am leaving for my vacation. So I just wanted to go ahead and close out my budget, pre-film it, so that while I'm on vacation, you guys will still get this video and we are still able to close the month together. So looking at February so far, let's just go ahead and wrap up the budget and see how we did. So the first thing I like to go ahead and do is change our budget to actual, so that as we're putting in all of our actualized numbers, everything is going to flow through the template. Getting started with what I was able to bring in for the month of February. This is for my full-time job, and this is after all of my deductions that I have taken out. So after my healthcare, this is after my tithe, this is after my taxes, and this is basically the number that I'm comfortable with sharing. So that is what I use to budget. And I was on target this month. I am salary, so normally the money that I budget is what I actually bring in. So $4,322 is what I was able to bring in for the month. So now let's go ahead and see how I decided to budget that out. Getting started with rent. Rent was, as always, what it is budgeted at. So $1,680 is for my rent. I got a comment regarding what is my apartment. I have a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment. So that is why the rent is a little bit on the pricier side, because as we all know, rent is ridiculous nowadays. So hopefully that offers some clarity for that. Next, we move on to my utilities, and utilities is going to be gas, water, and sewer. This charge is what comes from my apartment complex, and it does vary based off of how much I use. Since it's winter, it is coming down, so I budgeted $55, knowing that might be a little bit aggressive, and happy to report that I only had $35 that I had to pay for the month, which is great. Next, we move on to my internet. That's a fixed expense, so the $51 that I budgeted is what I paid for. And then we have my electricity. I am budgeting on the high end all through winter because I just don't know how my electricity is going to pan out. So I budgeted $250, and it came in at $198 that I was due for the month. So pretty close to what I budgeted, and honestly I only see it going up, so we'll see how it looks in March. Here I have rollover. Rollover is what I like to use as my buffer that I roll into my account. So whatever money I have left over after I finish allocating everything, is normally like a couple of dollars. I just throw that into my rollover, and it just feeds the buffer continuously. So if we go ahead and scroll over to expenses, for the month, gas, I did give myself the $60 that I budgeted. Looking at spending, I wanted to give myself $200, but I really was not in a spending mood this month, so there was no need for me to give myself that much. So ultimately, I only gave myself $50 for the month within spending. Groceries, $250. That is what I gave myself, $250 for the month. Toiletries was $190. I did have to go ahead and increase this, so I actually gave myself $130. $130 for the month. This was due to me basically forgetting that I had to get stuff in preparation for my vacation. So I needed to get my eyebrows done, I got some makeup, and I got my nails done, or a pedicure, because my actual nails have nothing on it. Next we have clothing. I budgeted $60 and I gave myself a little bit more at $65, so nothing major there. And for eating out, I budgeted $90 for the month, and $90 is what I gave myself. So looking good for expenses. And now we can move over to savings. As for savings, getting started with my sinking funds, annual payments, I budgeted $45 for the month, and that is what I gave that account, $45. For car maintenance, $40, and that is what I did. Car insurance received the $80 that I budgeted. Christmas received $40. Gifts received the $35. Household with $15. Medical, I did not give anything for the month there. As for my travel, I did bump this up. So I budgeted $300, but I gave myself $405 just for some unexpected expenses that I had to pay for. And I have a travel event thing in addition to my vacation that I'm planning. So when I come back, I can explain that to you guys, and the money is also going to fund for that. Emergency fund, $580 is what I wanted to give myself, but since I didn't give myself as much money for spending, whenever that happens, I do try to throw more to whatever my priority savings is, and as of right now, that is my emergency fund. So happy to report that for the month of February, I was actually able to save $650 towards that account, so that is nice to see. But as for my savings, that is everything that we have there. And now we can move over to my investments, which is my Roth IRA. I budgeted $400 for the month, and $400 is what that received. So making good progress for starting my 2025 contributions. I have a section here for debt, but I am debt free, so there's nothing that I will put in there. So scrolling back over, we see that I have remaining $3 that I have unbudgeted for. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that right into my buffer. So then that brings me down to 0, giving me a zero-based budget, which is how I personally like to budget. So looking at overall for our categories to see how the budget panned out, I like to glance at my income summary and see where the big differences are and where they went. So in terms of income, we see that we actualized with what we budgeted, so $4,322, nothing different there. As for bills, we were able to come $70 under what we budgeted, so that is great to see. Actually came in at $1,967. Same story for expenses. We were able to be under what we budgeted for, so a difference of $105 there, so actually coming in at $645. And then as I shared the difference that I was able to save between bills and expenses, I put that into my savings, so we were able to save an additional $175 versus what we budgeted, making the total savings for the month of $1,310. And then lastly is my investments, $400, nothing different there. And again, we are to a zero-based budget, which is great to see. To put those dollars into a percentage perspective, I like to go ahead and look at my pie charts and look at the budgeted income versus the actual. So for bills, we actually came in about 45% versus the 47% that we anticipated. Expenses, 15%, so again, lower than the 17%, which is good. Able to bump that savings up, so that was now about 30% versus the 26%. And then investments stayed exactly the same at 9.3%. So that is the overall percentage breakdown. And looking at my savings breakdown, this is another pie chart that I like to look at. I always like to make sure that whatever my priority savings is, about 50% of my total savings is going towards that. So as of right now, that is my emergency fund. So good to see that basically 50% of that went there. The other 30% was travel. We know that gets a big piece. And then my other sinking funds make up the rest of the chart. But overall for Feb, looking good as to where the money was budgeted and where it went. So now we can scroll down to the bottom and see what I actually spent my money on in terms of my expense tracker. All right, so in terms of my variable expenses, I track gas, spending, groceries, toiletries, clothing, and eating out. These are basically my main culprits that if I don't know what's going on, they will just get overspent. So I like to to watch them and make sure that I am staying in line. If we total up all of these expenses for the month, that gives us $903 across all of these categories that I spent for the month. So a little bit more than January, but it's kind of in line with what I normally spend. So let's take a deeper dive at these guys and see what's going on. So first, looking at gas, that was a total of $64 that I spent for the month there. And looking at the pie chart, that was about 7% of my spending. Gas over here, looking at the expense tracker, we see it's been highlighted 3 times. So filled up my tank 3 times, $64. Not too bad. That's in line with what I normally do. Next, we can move on to spending. Spending, that was a total of $155 spent for the month, and that was about 17% of my spending. Looking at what's highlighted for spending, the big guys, I went to the movies. I got some stuff off of Etsy. I bought from Bath & Body Works because they have the new Princess collection, and I'm a Disney adult, if you don't know. Disney and Harry Potter are like my #1 things that I am obsessed with. So they had a Tiana fragrance, and I had to get everything Tiana related to support her. So spent a good chunk at Bath & Body Works for that, and then I got some stuff off of Amazon. So that was really my spending. Nothing too crazy, I don't think. Next, we can look at groceries for the month. That was $200 that I spent, and that was about 22% of my spending. So I believe it's the second biggest category, so not too bad. Groceries is a priority. Groceries, I always go to either to Kroger or Costco, so that's basically what those guys are. As for toiletries, this was definitely a heftier spending month for that category. I spent a total of $230 from there, and this is the biggest piece of my pie, sitting at about 26% of my spending from there. The biggest culprit I know is Sephora. I had to stock up on some makeup, and I am very particular about my makeup. I do have PCOS, if you don't know, and I suffer from the acne symptoms of it. So I do get cis acne if I'm not monitoring it, and my skin is oily. So I'm very particular about what I put on my face, and I found things that are tried and true, but they are a little bit on the expensive side. But I rather just spend what I need to and be happy with the results from there. Also from toiletries, I went to CVS, I got my eyebrows done, and I tipped some people that did my service. So overall, a little bit pricier, but it's not always going to happen. This is just a little treat because I'm going on vacation this month. Next, we have clothing. That was $165 spent for the month within there. This was about 18% of my spending in terms of the expense breakdown. And I did go on a little shopping spree. So I think that's the only time I went clothing shopping. Yeah. This was a part of the video that I documented of what I spent in a week. I went and bought some clothes. So that was the only time I bought clothing for the month. So $165 from those 3 stores. And then the last guy is eating out with $89 spent for the month. Not too bad. It's about 10% of my spending, and I eat from my usual spots every month. I get Chinese food, I get Dunkin' Donuts, I get Domino's sometimes. So that's basically what all of that is. So in terms of my expenses and what I spent the money on, that is everything. And what I like to look at is the left to spend column, and looking here basically lets me know how much money I have left to work with until I receive my next paycheck. So overall, we see that gas, I have a left to spend of $98, spending $95, groceries $270, toiletries with $30, clothing at $45, and eating out with $66. So this doesn't look too bad for myself, and I should be good entering for the month of March. So overall, that is the breakdown for the month. And now that we finished everything for February, we can go ahead and now set up for March. All right, so here we are for March, a new month. I went ahead and copied all of the categories that I will be using for this month, and we can start by filling out the amounts. In terms of paychecks for March, I will be getting 2. I'm going to get paid on March 7th, and then I will be getting paid on March 21st. So those are the paychecks that we are working with for this month. So getting started with full-time, we should be getting the same budgeted amount, so $4,000 $4,322 is what we should be bringing in. So let's budget it out and tell the money where to go. We have rent. Rent is going to be $1,680 as it always is. As for utilities, I'm gonna budget $45. I think I can bring it down slightly versus the 55, so 45 should be a good amount, and I'm gonna budget that for that. Next we have internet, and I'm gonna budget the $51 that I should be getting charged, but we did experience a power outage. I believe we were out of power for maybe 5 hours, and I did get a notice from my internet provider that since we were down and we weren't able to use it for those periods of the hours, they were gonna compensate us with a little bit of money back. I don't anticipate it being a lot, so I'm still just gonna budget the full $51, but I might get a credit that might lower my internet for the month of March. I've had issues with this internet provider, so I'm not holding true on what they say, so I'm just going to cover myself and still budget as if I need to pay. Next up, we have electricity, and I'm going to do $250 again. I like to be over rather than under for electricity, and if we're under $250, great. If we're over it, then we got to figure it out. Rollover we will come back to, so leave that empty for now, and I will move on to my expenses. For the month gas, I'm going to give $60 within there. That should be good. Spending, I'm going to give myself $180. I'm going to bring it down slightly because, as I said, I haven't really been in the spending mood. So if I am, great. But if not, then spending will come down yet again. Groceries, I'm going to go ahead and give myself the standard $300 that I do every month just to cover me for there. Toiletries is going to be $90. Clothing, I'm going to give myself $60, and eating out will be $80. So those guys are normally what I do each month, so looking okay there. Moving along, we can now get into savings, starting off with annual payments. Honestly, my sinking funds are normally the same each month, so annual payments will get $45, car maintenance is getting $40, car insurance is getting $80, Christmas is getting $40, gifts will receive $20, household $20, medical is going to get $0, and travel I will give $300. For the month within emergency fund, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive, and I'm hoping to save about $580 within there. I feel like that would be a nice bump. In terms of investments, I have my Roth IRA. I'm going to go ahead and budget $400 again this month to stay within budget for there. And that should be everything. Debt, we are going to leave blank. So looking at what is remaining, we have $1 whole, and we're going to just go ahead and throw that into rollover. So there we are. Now we are at 0, giving me a 0-based budget. So looking at our income summary, the plan for March, we have $4,322 coming in. In terms of bills, we're going to budget $2,027. Expenses, I'm budgeting $770. Savings at $1,125, and investments at $400. In terms of percentages, that means that bills are going to be about 47% of my pay. Expenses are going to be 17.8%, savings at 26%, and investments sitting at the 9%. So when filling out my budget for the month, that is all I do. The last thing is just coming down to my expense tracker and filling in my rollover balances. So these are the numbers that I ended February with, and I'm gonna roll them over into March so that then as I begin inputting numbers within my expense tracker, they will populate with the correct totals that are remaining. So as we saw, gas had $98, spending had $95, groceries with $270, toiletries at $30, clothing at $45, and eating out had $66. So there we have it, you guys. That is the plan for March, and that will complete everything for setting up my budget template. All right, you guys, so as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for sticking out if you made it all the way to the end. Definitely let me know down in the comments below, as always, how your month went, how you're planning for March. Are there any big wins, achievements that are happening fill me in. We got to keep each other posted. If you aren't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button, join the family, and share it with anybody that you think that would enjoy the content. I really appreciate it, and it helps tremendously. Give the video a thumbs up as well. That always helps and supports. But yeah, as for today, that is all I have. I am on my way to the airport, you guys. I'm about to go enjoy my vacation. I will talk to you guys when I get back, and I just hope you all have a good weekend. So I will see you all next time within my next video. Bye, guys.